That wasn't necessary. Greetings, heathens and heretics. Welcome to a slightly late roundup of some of the key metal releases in June. It's been a bit of a busy month, so we are fucking miles behind, but we'll give it a go, memory and all that.
All these bloody musicians that we keep inviting on can't fit us any
That's
other
it.
time.
That's it. They've all got in the way. So, so we'll give it a go. We'll look at some of the best and some of the not so great, and maybe the odd one or two that causes a bit of polarized opinion. We'll see on that. How's Trix down there in sunny Kent? We've got Padre here as well. Somewhere he's wandering around doing something, but he'll be with us in a minute.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, autumn's here. It's great. I'm not burning my arse off, which is nice. And I suppose I'm glad to be here and not Europe. So, whatnot. Enjoying the cricket, which is you don't say very often, but I'm not sure what's got into the water in the England cricket team. Even more so with the Aussies, but yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, ripping through the Aussies like a knife through butter at the moment. So yeah, it's all good. Let's go to a deciding test and make it interesting. But this isn't a cricket podcast, so we may as well crack on with the order at hand, because, like I said, we need to catch up. So let's kick it off. We won't go right back to the start of the month, but we'll kick it off with an album called "It All Returns to Nothing" by Burner. It came out on June 23rd on Church Road Records. Just yet another huge release on that label. I don't know how they keep doing it. I think we're in agreement that this was a surprisingly positive response to this one. The couple of songs that I'd heard prior to release, I thought, yeah, this could be something. But the album is a bit of a fucking banger, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've had 2 or 3 listens to it now, and I think I was quite enthusiastic with it to begin with, and then it's kind of settled down. But it does stand out when it comes to the hardcore albums I've listened to this year. Lots of breakdowns, lots of twists and turns, some nasty extreme sounds there as well. It's one of those where you can't. It's difficult to predict where it goes.
Well, one minute it's black metal, 1 minute it's death metal, then it's hardcore, then it's thrash. It's fucking all sorts in the mix.
It is, yeah. It's a very confident album. I mean,
it's for a debut. Yeah.
It's their debut. Okay, I thought it was their second
debut full length. There was an EP before it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's got the confidence you'd expect from bands who are about 2 or 3 albums in. I mean, production wise, bang on. It's got
it sounds massive.
And it's got that classic sort of late 90s Y2K sort of era hardcore sound and vibe, proper beat down at the LA2 or the underworld kind of thing. It's and it's a very British album.
Yeah, it definitely sounds British, and I think you said it when you first heard it, that it takes you back to those days of Stamping Ground and Decimate and all those kinds of back in the day, the £5 all dayers at the underworld and that kind of thing. But I think what jumps out for me, like you say, the production is awesome. Like I say, it's a hugely confident album. How they mix so many different styles of heavy music into what is essentially a metallic hardcore album.
Yeah,
that's kind of blown me away. I get what you mean by like the initial impact is like it sort of grabs you by the nuts and swings you around the room and throws you against the wall.
Yeah,
and then it does kind of settle down a bit, but you can't take away from the fact that it's just a fucking face ripper of an album.
No,
like the opening track, Hurt Locker. There's a breakdown in the middle of that which just sets the tone for the entire album.
Yeah,
sometimes it just comes from nowhere, and I love that.
It's a particular shout out to Prometheus Reborn.
Yeah,
that just hits hard. Pleased with this. I think again, a few more listens and it will sort of sink in a bit more, because that's the thing is it is quite acerbic, and yeah.
I'm curious to see them live, because I've heard great things. They did 1 or 2 album release shows in the last few weeks, and the reports are it was just absolute fucking carnage.
I'm surprised anyone's survived. honest. But
Well, yeah. And when Maxim from Wallowing was on a couple of weeks ago, he was talking about they want to do a tour together. That's a package they want to put together. So Burner and Wallowing, that will be that'd just be all out wanton destruction.
that's insurance company waivers all day long. That is.
Yeah, fucking venues gone up and down the country, completely fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
So look, another British band. I've kind of sort of slotted it tentatively into my ever-growing list of best albums of the year. The British bands are absolutely smashing it, and more of the albums we've got from June are British artists as well. So it's a strong year.
Yeah.
All right, let's go for something else then. Another British band, Coffin Mulch, a death metal band from Scotland that are getting quite a lot of traction off the back of this album. It's called Spectral Intercession. It was kind of released on a war with False Noise, but I think a couple of other labels did bits and pieces, whether it's the vinyl and digital release and all that kind of thing. They sold out all of the vinyl of this on their own Bandcamp in the first weekend. I think about 1,500 copies.
Christ.
Which for an underground death metal band releasing their first full length debut is a hell of a fucking achievement. I think
we have to say some of the artwork we're seeing from a lot of these bands. I mean, again, just as a package, the demand's always going to be high when you've got artwork like that. It's nuts, isn't it? It's
who's doing the artwork?
The artwork for that one, I can't remember the guy's name.
I need to get better at these names because I know what's his face on Banger TV. He always makes a point of mentioning the artist, which is great, and I need to be better with that. So,
well, you're right. I mean, because vinyl has made such a comeback in the last few years, the artwork's becoming more and more important. Isn't it? Because we're back on 12 inches rather than just a small picture on a screen. It's a guy called Brad Moore, who I'm not actually familiar with, but going by that album cover, I'm going to seek out more because it's a quality piece of work. It really is.
Yeah.
But that aside, musically, this is properly, in the full spirit of mid to late 90s Entombed. I think that's what's done it for me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's got that sound. Absolutely. I mean, it's what's the HM2 pedal?
As they call it. Yeah.
So they're in love with that, definitely. At the moment, I haven't quite sunk in song wise, but it's one of those where I think I'll want to come back to it because of that sound. So I'm not in a position really to comment fully just yet.
Yeah, give it. I mean, you're an Entombed fan anyway, so you love it. But there's single guitar as well, which I didn't actually realise until I actually concentrated on the album notes. And to have a sound that dense just with one guitar is again the same with the Burner album. The production is sort of it's unreal, and it's got a punky vibe as well. I think I get some of that. Got that kind of punk attitude to it, and
I mean a name like that as well on Coffin Mulch. I mean.
Well, we need a tour of Coffin Mulch, Swamp Coffin, and Penny Coffin. So if any of those three bands can make that happen, I'll go just for the tour merch. Let's make that happen. But again, a British band, and it's just almost a conveyor belt at the minute of successful releases. I'm loving it. My top 25 or whatever it is of the year so far is almost 50% British albums.
Yeah, I've got a few. I think I've kept it to a top 20 because, it's just time, isn't it? But
don't make too big a thing about it, or otherwise certain people will be claiming, it's Brexit. the music scene's flourishing because of Brexit.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Fucking yeah. Let's keep that out of it. But look, it's like I said, great album, great artwork. We've said that. I think it's got quite a lot going on for a death metal album. Obviously, I'm on this journey through all these death metal albums, and it is opening my eyes and ears a little bit to the positives in death metal, and I'm starting to hear more than maybe my
Yeah.
narrow-minded side wouldn't have picked up on before. So,
I mean, I might be starting to turn on Morbid Angel.
yeah, I haven't got back to Morbid Angel yet.
Yeah, no, just hearing some of the comments last week about them, and just I thought I'm almost sort of listening to it with a slightly from a different perspective, and I'm kind of appreciate where the positive stuff's coming from now. So, but yeah, we're not talking immediate pop mouse and hummable tunes, but yeah, I think I could be convinced.
Well, talking of coming around to things and being convinced. Also last month, Creep and Death released their second album, Boundless Domain, came out on the 16th, I think. And this is one of those where there was quite a lot of hype around this album. And I heard a couple of songs and I was like, I don't really kind of get the hype around it. But in the last week, I've listened to it a lot more. And yeah, I'm starting to understand it now. I'm starting to understand why they're building popularity, why they're getting so much traction. The album's produced by Adam D from Killswitch.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a metalcore feel to it.
Yeah.
The guitar sound is a bit metalcore. It's got a metalcore groove to it as well. I wouldn't just call it a straight up death metal album.
No. I mean, again, I only had one listen so far. There is something there, definitely. Whether it's groove or technical mouse or whatever, but there's enough dynamism just to keep me potentially interested.
Yeah.
I think melody wise, there isn't a great deal of melody there.
Believe me, the more you listen to it, the more that melody will start to come into the mix.
It's for me, this is sort of almost like you say that metalcore / hardcore kind of vibe where they're just focusing on the rhythms and the grooves, I think, really. But yeah, it's I can see why people are raving about them. So yeah, again, can't fully comment at this point in time, but I'm open to getting into it.
Well, a shout out on a couple of songs, Intestinal Rap, which has got Corpse Grinder on it, so you can never go wrong with that. It's a great track. It's got a beautiful 90s hardcore breakdown sort of right towards the end of it, which I just love. The Parthian Shot, that's another one. There's a huge fucking breakdown riff in that. And it's that kind of thing, like you said, the dynamism that keeps it going, that keeps it moving along and keeps you interested. So I do think the more you listen to it, the more you'll enjoy this album. Padre, this is one for you as well, I think, because you like the crossover thrash stuff, and this has got a lot of that in the mix, as well as the death metal and the hardcore. This is one for you.
How long has this band been going?
No, they've been around for probably 5 or 6 years in terms of the public eye. Look, this is their second album. I've never really paid any attention to them, so this is they're a new one on me. But I'm going to give them a bit more time. And
yeah, I mean, see people on Twitter earlier in the year raving about them constantly and like almost jizzing on the phones about the upcoming second album. I thought, okay, right.
No, but it is really good, and I think Adam D's production does help that.
Yeah,
just gives it that kind of clarity that you don't necessarily associate with some death metal. And guitar sound is just so perfectly dense, and there's good solos in it as well, and melodic solos that kind of do come out of nowhere. And yeah, it's definitely sort of perked my interest a little bit. So I'm coming back for more. If they're really unlucky, they might end up in my top 25, 30, 35, 40. The list is just going to go on and on and on.
I mean, I don't think I've never sort of got to the point where I had a top 40 before at the end of the year. And yeah, I'm going to have to, definitely going to have one.
Yeah, we will. It'll get that bad. It just keeps on coming.
Well, when it gets to the point, it's like, oh Christ, this is me at number 50, and I love this as much as some of the other ones, and just could barely separate them. That's the trouble with doing stuff like this, and you're forcing yourself to listen to lots of music. There's too much out there.
It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough.
Yeah.
But look, there's one that I'm pretty confident in saying that I don't think he's going to be in your top 50 at the end of the year. So the album's called Shattered Vanity by a band called Leather Bitch, which came out right at the start of the month on Shadow Kingdom Records, the label that gave us Bloodstar, Cold Moon, that was called, which is a brilliant, brilliant album. It's kind of traditional metal with a very thick slab of sleaze. I love this, love it to the point that I bought the vinyl from Black City. It's not reinventing the wheel in one part, but I really enjoyed it. It's Route One, sleaze metal. I love it, and I know I'm going to get a very different opinion from the Apparent Voice of Reason.
I think the thing for me is that I think from the start I got a significant vibe of mediocrity.
That's even worse than saying it's shit.
Well, yeah, because that kind of never escaped while I was listening to this album. And what you don't want for something that is harking back to the 80s, both, like you say, the heavy metal stuff and the sleaze metal stuff, you don't want it to be boring. And that's kind of the vibe I'm afraid I got from this. Just
fuck off.
It was dull. Now, I'm not gonna. It's not all bad because I'll point out there. You got a couple of tracks, Morphina and The Invitation. They certainly grabbed my attention a bit more.
The Invitation's a banger.
So it's not like, they're a bad band. They've got something. They should absolutely keep it up. But I think musically, for me, it's not there. It really is, and it's just quite uninspired. But my biggest beef with this album, and it's rare that I highlight something like this, but for me, it's just the standout problem, is the vocals. I just feel the vocals are completely at odds with the album. A lot of the time, they're even more mediocre than the music around it. And then when he's trying to give it some full metal, I just feel it sounds bloody awful. And I can't believe they haven't said, dude, you need to work on this part of what you're doing.
It's harsh.
I don't know. It's rare that I say things like that, but I really struggled with this album, vocals especially.
You mean man.
But like I say, there's a couple of tracks there. I'd happy to listen to those. But I'm afraid, this won't be on my list at all.
Look, opinions are like clitorises, we know that, but it's I love it because I think there is no overthinking, and I haven't even paid that much attention to whether the vocals are good or not, and I hope by you saying that you haven't just ruined it for me, because I'll have to send it back to Dave. But yeah, The Invitation, that was actually in my notes as one of the highlight songs. Look, it's cliched as they come. The invitation, the lyrics are an invitation to come and fillet me, basically. So yeah, it is fucking early 90s crazy gang Wimbledon Route One stuff. There's no beating about the bush. But I find it hard that you dislike it that much.
It's just
that you can't see past the flaws.
There's something missing. It's just not exciting me. And that's the thing, is I can listen to a lot of bands doing this kind of stuff, and they might not even be that great at all, but there's something there that's putting me in. But with these guys, I don't know. It's just not there.
If we want, we all like a bit of sleaze metal from the 80s, and we obviously love our traditional heavy metal. But what do we, these kind of bands, what do we actually want? Is it that important that the vocals are perfect? I mean, Padre, Guns N' Roses, you said the same thing yourself. Like a big chunk of the performance, Axl was holding back. His vocals weren't great. And it's only when they hit the big moments that he really pushes on.
And I think, that's, and again, like I said the other week, I think it's fair enough because he's 60.
About that, yeah.
Back in the day, he used to be a heavy smoker, drank a lot. That's not going to be good for your voice. So, I think it's fair enough. So, I mean, like again, it goes back to what we've said before. Like, it's very easy to be, hypercritical, judgy, and have like very high expectations and standards. But I think sometimes it's got to look at the overall experience of the gig or the concert, and the songs you're getting. I mean, I think if you can have, let's say someone's voice is off, the vocals are off or something, but as long as the guitar and the backing music is good, which is what the case was at Guns N' Roses, because like Slash's guitar sound was phenomenal. So was the rest of the band. The backing singers, the piano, everything that was really crisp. So like kind of any deficiency in Axl's voice, it was made up for. But he still managed to hit those notes when he needed to on the big tracks.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was quite happy with it, and but then I've seen bands as well where I've come away really disappointed. I mean, and through no fault of their own, I think there was that one year. It was Download 2005. We went to see Anthrax on the main stage, but they were halfway up the bill, and you couldn't hear anything because the monitors were absolutely shocking.
I remember
that. You could tell the band were getting pissed off, and then Slayer came on the main stage, and they had the same problems, and you're just like, this is shocking. Like just absolutely.
These are the kind of the flaws that will happen, and with newer bands, I always struggle to criticize too hard, because this kind of music, there's always going to be flaws. The whole fucking sleaze scene in the 80s, most of the vocalists weren't great, and
no, they weren't. No.
So I put this album in that sort of territory, and it's almost the flaws that make it appealing.
I mean, come on. I mean, you're going to say, like, I'm sorry, Bret Michaels is as a good vocalist? No, of course. CC DeVille is a good guitar player. Yeah, fair enough. You can play a few things, but that's about it. None of those
vocals were never the strong point.
None of those glam bands had decent singers, and I'm sorry, none of those glam bands had decent musicians. I'm sorry, there weren't any standout. No one's putting a Motley Crue or a Hanoi Rocks or a Rat or a Warrant solo in the top 50 of all time. They had a couple of good riffs. It was all about the packaging, the music video, the kind of the strip, the sleaze, the
MTV generation.
Yeah.
It's
then you get like. Sometimes you get like around the same time you had like Whitesnake all over MTV, and I think they got lumped in with that hair metal thing. But David Coverdale is in a different league in terms of singing, to compared to those bands. Even Ozzy, he may not be the best singer, but he's distinct. Whereas you can't really tell the difference.
It was the delivery with Ozzy, though, wasn't it? It was never about the vocal ability; it was just the delivery.
But can you really tell the difference between Vince Neil and Bret Michaels?
No.
They look similar. They sound similar. They behave similar. I mean, like Poison are just a Motley Crue light. They're just light beer compared to they're like Miller Lite compared to Miller Genuine Draft.
Popley Crew is what they basically were.
Yeah.
Without all the Satanism, but yeah, look,
right, because like Motley Crue was Satan.
Well, look, according to Nikki Sixx, it was them that started the whole fucking Satanism thing, and all the other bands just followed. So
I'm sorry, using a pentagram does not mean that you started Satanism.
Yes, it does.
No, it does. I mean, and also Sabbath never referenced the devil.
No.
Like 10 years before, neither did Priest or Maiden or anyone else in the 70s. I mean,
no one gives a fuck about Crew. Well, people do give a fuck about Crew, but
I still love. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but that picture of the Def Leppard Motley Crue at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, I know, it's embarrassing.
Not even a third, fourth. It's like someone's ego. It was either the promoter or the bands themselves just ran away with it there. Like that is just like, it's almost like, do you remember that, the League of Gentlemen, where there's the dad that used to be in the band Creme Brulee, and he's always talking about being in the band, and then something happens and he's like, it's a shit business. Like, you can just imagine like Vince Neil coming off the stage in tears. Like, why didn't we pack out Wembley Stadium with Motley Crue? Yeah, you were Motley Crue 40 years ago. Now you're an irrelevancy. You're the very definition of impertinent. You're just not. No one gives a shit. And it's just like, you can just imagine going, like the promoter just rubbing him on the butt, just going, don't worry, Vince, we'll pack it next time. We'll get a new album in. Just like.
It doesn't help us though when we're trying to defend the popularity of rock and metal, and you see pictures like that. It's like, oh, what have you done? Yeah. What have you done? Just let us all down.
And really, and I've got nothing against Def Leppard, but that in their home country, like they should have just played Sheffield. They would have been very well
Well,
playing.
that's it. They did play Sheffield, but they played Sheffield, London, Blackpool. They did a show in Ireland as well. A one-off stadium would have been they would have been fine, but yeah, they just got a bit too big for their boots. So, and look, we went to see Maiden a week or so after that. They did 2 nights at the O2, doing arenas all over the country, and you just look at the photos and how great that looks. The arena's absolutely packed to the rafters, and the place is going nuts for what was an incredible gig, and they could have had that. If that was at the O2, they'd have had that same experience, and it probably would have been a much better show for it. So, anyway, moving on. Right, this is one of my favorites from the month. Album's called Concrete Cowboys by Buggin. Came out on the 9th of June on Flat Spot Records. 12 songs, 19 minutes. Bouncy, skippy hardcore. Fucking love it. Love it. Hardcore album of the year so far. Bit disappointed didn't get to see them when they were here last month. But yeah, I don't know if you two have had a chance to listen to this, but it's great fun. Absolutely love it.
No, not me, I'm afraid.
You don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing.
20 minutes. It seems to look like I have slated 20-minute albums this year, so I'm sure I can fit it in when I'm cooking me dinner or something.
Oh, look, if you cook the right thing, you'll be able to listen to it 3 times. It's on the punkier end of hardcore. It's very, very hooky. It's full of breakdowns, but because the songs are so short, they still manage to fit in an awful lot. It's got your fast punky stuff, but there's some great breakdown riffs in there, some great choruses. The song Snack Run, I just fucking love it. It is literally about going out and buying snacks, and the song's only like 57 seconds long. It's straight to the point, but it's quite aggressive. It's quite in your face at times, but it's got a real sort of positive vibe, and it just makes you want to run around picking up change.
No, I don't. I don't.
I think I'll have to try and describe that in person next time I see you. Bloodstock, probably. Yeah. But if you're an ardent hardcore fan, you probably know what I mean. But look, I think you'll like it.
Oh, okay, right. Well,
I do genuinely think you'll like it. It's so catchy and so fucking hooky that I'd be very surprised if you didn't.
So it sounds like it's the melodic hardcore then. So is it sort
of
like
pretty melodic,
yeah. H2O sort of thing?
It's a bit more aggressive than H2O.
Right.
It's got one of the best guitar tones I've heard on an album all year. It's just a perfect mid-range crunch for that type of hardcore.
Right.
So, yeah, there is a bit of H2O in there, but a little bit beefier. But that same kind of posi-core sort of vibe to it. So, check it out and report back to me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, exactly. Concrete Cowboys by Buggin. Check it out. Right, what else have we got? What else are we bringing to the party? Go on, check your notes. What else have we got?
Shall I talk about Imperishable?
Yes, talk about that, because that one, a band I'd never heard of before, came completely out of left field, and I fucking loved it, even though I almost forgot about it prior to this episode.
Yeah, so...
the album's called Come Sweet Death, came out on Hammer Heart Records.
Death, yeah, there you go. 9th of June. What can I say about this album? It's death metal. So gave it a blast because people were talking about it quite positively. And again, straight away, you got a bit of dynamism there. You got a strong 90s Swedish sound. So yeah, okay, I'm in. I'm intrigued. I'll keep listening. But it's that first bridge. That ain't a death metal bridge. That's a classic heavy metal bridge. Harmonised guitars. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, right in this middle of this fairly sort of 90s Swedish death metal track. And I've never heard anything done like that before. So, of course, I'm invested straight away because it's quite melodic. And by the third track, they've done it again. And you've got a bridge there in The Perennial Desire, which sounds like it could be off Ride the Lightning. And, yeah, that vibe sticks throughout the album of, this 90s Swedish death metal that's dynamic, but there's just these melody bombs dropping in the middle of it here and there, and it's it's very distinctive and not something I've come across before done in that way.
Yeah, I agree. It took me by surprise, a lot of it. The first thought I had on my first listen to it was like it was kind of like 90s Dark Tranquility and 90s Entombed got together, made Sweet Love, and had several babies.
Okay.
And then the more I listened to it, like you said, that melody then started to come through. That you've got the blend of that classic Swedish stuff, but with some real traditional heavy metal. The one song that stood out for me was called Teeth of the Hydra. It's just such a great riff in the middle of that. Yeah, a really surprising release that's kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, simple as that. Just a
are they Swedish? Do we know?
I don't think they are. I think they might be British.
What? No.
I need to do better at this kind of stuff of actually looking into the backgrounds. But let's.
If they're not Swedish, they should move there.
Yeah, they could well be, but I don't know. I'm sure
they are indeed from Gothenburg. So there you go.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. I mean,
not only are they Swedish, they're from fucking Gothenburg.
That's just.
So we made ourselves look like proper amateurs there, but
well, yeah, that's fine. But I mean, Christ, if they're all what. I think they're a new band, so they're probably young. So they're all born in the mid-90s, I'm sure. I don't know. There's something
you know what? That's a good point. They probably are if they're in their mid-20s. If that's the next step forward from, what we love about 90s mellow death and everything that came after it, well, not everything that came after it. We've had a couple of these earlier in the year as well that have showed some real promise, and if there's more of this stuff coming along, people keep going on about a new metal renaissance. Fuck that. Let's have full-on Swedish melodeath back again in its full glory. I'll be all for that.
Or it's Scandinavian melodeath.
Oh yeah, I'll take that. And someone I noticed actually that Mercenary are releasing their first album in 10 years, so there you go, there's Danish melodeath for you. But yeah, look, that was a surprising one. That one really enjoyable. If you like that kind of thing, check it out because it's just so packed full of very surprising melody. And yeah, came out of nowhere. Let's crack on. A couple of quick mentions. Power Trip released a live album last month, live in Seattle. Look, there's not much you can really say about this. It's Power Trip. It's a live album. It's what it's going to be. It's just a collection of some of their best songs from a gig in I think it was in Texas, wasn't it? Oh, sorry, Seattle. The clue's in the title. It's good. It's a good live album. It's not what you would call spectacular, but it's Power Trip live. Obviously, Padre, you'll like it, but yeah, there's not much more to be said about it than that. Death Collector, Death's Toll. Came out on Prosthetic on the 23rd of June. British death metal band. Drummer used to be, he's the former drummer from Bolt Thrower, so you've got some pedigree there. You got a young vocalist, guy called Kieran Scott, only in early 20s. Really, really promising death metal vocalist. It's one of the strongest points of this album. It's an old school death metal album, but it does have a bit of a modern touch, and there's a few kind of hardcore-ish type breakdowns in there and things like that. I don't know if either two of you have listened to this, but
I did.
It's as far as death metal goes, it's been one of the best for me this year.
Yeah, I've given it a listen. It's not done it for me, I'm afraid. That's all really. It's quite competent. It's quite competent what it does, but it's not clicking for me.
Listen to it more.
No,
because I will admit my first listen it didn't click all that. There's some of it that passed me by, but after 4, 5, 6 more listens, it does actually make more sense. So
that's a lot of time to devote. I don't know. It's got all these albums to listen to. I can't.
Look, think about it this way: when you're sat watching cricket in your pants, do you need the commentary? How important is the commentary when you're watching cricket?
When England are slotting sixes and I'm hearing all the crowd cheer, yeah, it's very important.
But just think about how much better that would be if you're listening to some thrash or some death, some good old traditional heavy metal. Just imagine that. Six
Yeah.
flying out over the ropes, and you've got some great riffs in the background. What more do you want? Thrash metal cricket.
Yeah, maybe. But like
Yeah.
I watch the highlights anyway in the evening, so yeah.
Well, the highlights are an hour long, so
I
you know
can't.
most of these albums are less than that.
Sadly, I can't. I
I'm
can't
just thinking about like some cricketing terms that you could have as like song titles.
Here we fucking go.
Yeah.
Well, you can't say that and not at least throw something into the mix.
No, I'm
Don't
no,
leave us
like,
hanging now.
It's
No.
like the intro track could be like 4 leg buys. It's silly mid off. What else could you have?
Bow hell.
Cover drive. But like people that don't know cricket are going to be at cover drive. What's that about driving? And they listen to it, and it's just...
You know what? Cover Driver's got like sort of 80s AOR rock written all over it.
Yeah.
You know, still washed up in a pub in 2022. We are Cover Driver, and this was our 1984 hit. Silly
Yeah.
But
Square leg.
look, I recommend it. I've done it myself, watching cricket, listening to metal. It works. I'm not going to go down this whole route if it makes cricket interesting, because anybody who says cricket is boring at the moment is fucking clueless.
Yeah, they can fuck off and never.
I'd love to see them to use like some metal tracks like as intros when they come like in the test match. So like they're out, they come down from the pavilion, like Johnny Bairstow or someone walking out to a metal track would be quite good.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that at Test cricket though. That's a 100 or 2020, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 2020 you could definitely do it. You know, coming out to Cat Scratch Fever, or you smash a six over the boundaries to Rock You Like a Hurricane. It would work. So we'll kick it off here and now. Heavy metal cricket. We need someone to pick up, someone to back it. Let's make it happen.
If you're Australia right now, the song that keeps the metal song that keeps going through your mind is "Ashes in Your Mouth" by Megadeth.
You've been thinking really hard about that one, haven't you?
No, it just literally just came to me.
Eat them, fucking dirty.
That's right. Don't just look at it. Eat it. Choke on that urn.
Well, let's not speak too soon.
One step at a time.
You know what happened? England will win this test, and then they'll fuck it in the fifth one.
Yeah, it will. But this, like I said at the top of the podcast, this is not a cricket podcast. So apologies for those who give no fucks about cricket. What else we got? Death Ray Vision, No Mercy from Electric Eyes came out on Metal Blade. So essentially a super group. It's Mike D from Kill Switch. Second album, I believe. I'm right. Yeah. I've only given this a couple of listens, but yeah, I quite like it. I think it's got a bit of... I can hear early Corrosion Conformity in it, like the pre-Pepper Keenan mixed with a bit of the rock and roll elements to Every Time I Die, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
there's a bit of vibe I get from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an early noughties vibe for me. And you got some hardcore, you got some punk, you got that sort of early noughties metalcore, bit of groove metal, bit of thrash. There's a cocktail there going on, and you've got a singer who looks like basically a beefed up American version of Wattie from The Exploited.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a sort of almost a cheerful vibe, a triumphant sort of vibe going on. There's anger and aggression there, but it's almost like a fuck yeah, it's
a bit fist pumping, isn't it? Yeah, I get that.
It's again, I've had a couple of listens, but it's an enjoyable album. That's what I like about it. It's heavy and it's in your face and it's angry, but it's enjoyable.
It's not. I don't think it's an album you're going to remember in 10 years' time, but it's it's got its merits, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
I can see it's one of those albums I think that people will stick on regularly in the years to come. But you know what? That was a good little album. It's got that sort of vibe where people, it could become a lost classic, I think.
Have you heard the first album?
No.
See, I haven't either. That's why I don't really know if they've if their sound has changed from first to second album. I don't know. I mean, I need to listen to this one a bit more, and I'll go back and listen to the first one as well. But I like what I heard so far. And look, pedigree, Mike D's good songwriter, been doing this kind of thing for a long time. So yeah, needs more of a listen. All right, one more before we get on to the final one. I think you've had more time with this than I have. It's an album called Unbeaten by a band called Carabiner, which was knocking about on social media a little bit, wasn't it? But I haven't had a chance to give this any real time.
Yeah, Carabiner, I think it is. Yeah, again, I've had 2 or 3 listens, but it's thrash. It's thrash, but it's also edging towards classic heavy metal as well. It's kind of in that sort of mid zone, but it's aggressive enough. But you've got your melodies and a bit of fist pumping, classic vibe. Ukrainian.
I was going to say they're Ukrainian, aren't they?
So, like I say, with them and Death Pill, they're knocking out some good thrash this year, which I don't want to say isn't surprising, but I'm sure they're putting the energies positively. But lots of melody on this album, and I know Nige, he loves his thrash, and he was very enthusiastic about this album. So that's kind of what.
Well, that's like a seal of approval, then, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Evening, Nige.
Yeah, no, definitely, absolutely worth a listen. This one, I think I haven't seen a bad word from the people who've listened to it.
No, I'll give it a proper listen. I think I got about 2 songs in, was probably rudely interrupted by something.
I think the last track, if I recall rightly, is called Vintage Metal or something.
Well, you can't go wrong with that.
And it's Vintage Metal, and it sounds like that. It's a very fist pumping, triumphant, very, very chorus heavy, and it's much more accessible than the rest of the album as well. It's a closer. Yeah, it's a really strong closer. So
okay. I will. I in the same way that you need to go away and listen to Buggin' Concrete Cowboys, I will do the same with Carabiner.
I will say one for Padre, definitely.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely.
You might have to put it. You might have to put it in a message or an email or by pigeon or metal pigeon, obviously.
Yeah, well, always delivers.
Yeah, but yeah. Right, look. Essentially, the headline act of the month for me, and I think for you as well. And I don't know if Padre, if you've had a chance to listen to this. Again, another British band, a band that I only discovered earlier this year, mainly through Black City Records and the sort of promo they've been giving this album. So the album's called Sacrament, the band of Witch Hazel. This is their 4th album. And for a British band that I've never heard of, I was a little bit shocked by that. To give you an idea, so it came out on Bad Omens Records. This is new wave of British heavy metal if it was in the medieval times, I think is the best way to describe it. You've got elements of kind of the early days of New Album, Wishbone Ash, Nazareth, that kind of thing. There's a bit of Fleetwood Mac in there. But the biggest thing of this is how fucking catchy these songs are. This has gone all the way to the top of my list this year, this album. It's an absolute stunner.
Yeah, this is high up for me. It's one listen, all it took.
Yeah.
Every track. I mean, the track I'd heard in advance, Angel of Light, big old groove there, harmonised guitars. I mean, real Thin Lizzy vibe.
Definite Thin Lizzy stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And my head turned. It's like, right, okay, well, that's getting listening to first thing. And not a single bad track on the album. No skips. No dip of quality. Even when it sort of does its sort of quiet acoustic bit, it's consistent. It undulates. It's a little. I mean, there's nothing fast here. But there's nothing really slow. It's a very mid-paced album, but it's that balance between the melodies and the harmonies, and it flows. Yeah. Like you say, the choruses, the verses are catchy, not just the choruses. And I don't know what really to say much apart from this is just a great metal album. I think it's white metal. I think there is a Christian vibe to it, but we're not talking Styx or anything like that here. That sort of Americanized evangelical approach to Christian metal that will put people off. There's an almost sort of folky pagan element to it.
It's like a light take on the occult kind of thing.
It's. I mean, they could. I can see these guys fitting into some sort of old late 60s Hammer horror film.
Yeah.
With what they do. But it's lyrically, there is a lot of, you've got like stuff like, what's it called? Deliverance. So there you go, straight away. And yeah, there are references to, that on paper might seem a bit, prayer based, but with the music they're playing, it's all very balanced and authentic. And it's like, you know what? Not my thing, but I dig what they're doing, kind of thing.
Well, the standout song for me is 1,000 Years. And that line in it of Satan will reign for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And after the chorus, the second chorus, and it breaks into this just amazing Thin Lizzy style guitar solo. I can't. They're one of the bands I'm looking forward to at Bloodstock this year more than any other. And they're on fucking midday on the Friday. Really, really looking forward to seeing them. Really looking forward to them. And it's completely come out of nowhere. Never heard of them. 4 albums into their career, never heard of them before this year. And it is well and truly in the top 5.
Yeah, and they say Dave last week at Black City, he was saying their last album, Pentecost, that's one of his Desert Island discs, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, which I've gone back and started to listen to, and I'll go back over the previous ones as well. And it's almost just as good. It's a bit more raw, I suppose, a little bit.
There's a bit heavier. Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, just great band.
You just have to think, where the hell are people finding these melodies? Where are they coming from?
Yeah, it almost makes you sick. But it's just more evidence as to how exciting new music is at the moment, especially in this country.
And people say, the best stuff's in the past. There's no good music anymore, and it's all bollocks. It's bollocks.
Just following up on conversations that we've had recently about ticket prices and and the amount of stadium shows there are now, and it's over 100 quid for a ticket and all this kind of thing to go and see Def Leppard or whoever. But a band like this, so last week they did a little acoustic show in Black City Records. Same night they were playing the Griffin Pub in Bristol, which holds 50 people. And I was messaging Dave from Black City just after, and he says it's one of the best gigs he's been to in a long time. And it's in essentially the back room of a pub.
Yeah.
We don't need stadium shows. There's all this great music out there, and it's in a pub down the road.
I mean, this is the thing about this band. If they were to have supported Iron Maiden, they're sorted.
It would work, yeah.
They're sorted, absolutely. The fans that they would make. This is old school. It's and they deserve it. But it's still very low key.
Well, I know from previous experience over going to many Bloodstocks that the early bands on always get a decent turnout, and it could be quite a moment for them. I think if the weather's right and it's early in the festival, so people are still clean and with it, not too hungover. It could be a big moment for them, and they could really thrive on it. I genuinely cannot wait for that performance. I think they'll get about 40 minutes. Perfect. And I hope they play 1,000 years because I want to see that solo live. I really do. Just so excited by this band. I haven't been this excited by a retro type of band for a long time. So
we got the vinyl now. I mean, that was like 20 quid or whatever it was. It was straight away. It was like, that price.
Yeah, I got it as well. Yeah, I haven't actually listened to it on vinyl yet, but I've got it. That's the main thing.
Me and my neighbours have. Yeah.
Well, lucky them. That's all I can say. Well, that was June. Well, that's most of June. That's about as much as we can get in. There's a few other bits and pieces released, but I haven't really been able to give it enough time. There's some things we might be able to catch up on a little bit later in the year. But we are 6 months into the year, so we may as well look at favourites for the year so far. So, like maybe your favourite 5, if you've got them.
I have, yeah. I'm always trying to finalise a top 20 actually so far. So I've got that list embedded to work into as the year goes on. But yeah, I've got a top 5. So
in no particular order, but the 5 that are standing out at the moment.
I can do an order. Yeah, no. So number 5, a band who I've never listened to before, but they've been around for years, and I just love this album. Scorched by Overkill.
Huh. I didn't expect that one.
Absolutely, no, cracking albums. And again, I liked what I heard from it, but it's just the more I listened to it, I just kept coming back to it. More to like about it, more to enjoy. And again, it's heavy, it's raw, it's savage, it's angry, it's just melodic as fuck. Going home.
It's not just a thrash album either, is it?
No.
Far from it.
A great metal album. I mean, Going Home or Coming Home. It's one of my favourite songs of the year. Yeah,
Padre, you need to get on that one, definitely.
Right, okay, we'll do. I've checked. I've just saved Witch Hazel. That's good.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's my number 5. Number 4.
Did you spell that last one?
Overkill.
Overkill. How do you spell it?
You fucking cunt. MEGADET.
Right.
H. Okay. Moving on. Go on.
Number 4. Again, I liked this album after a few listens, and I gave it a bit of a gap. When I listened to it again recently, it finally really clicked. Like as in, I love this album. Clicked. So number 4. Yeah, we've had him on Hell Ripper. I'm really no good at titles. I really need to be better at.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you this title because you need to be remembering this.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Warlock, Scrim, and Wither Tags.
There you go.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Finally clicked. I think properly, and huge old stuff. Looking forward to seeing them live later this year. So
and I think the whole package with Hell Ripper just makes them so appealing. Everything they do. How great James is on social media and with fans and everything. It just makes the whole experience of Hell Ripper just an overtly positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, I mean, we just talked about them. Witch Hazel, For Sacrament. Just absolutely love. That was an instant. This is going to be high on my list. I knew it straight away. Yeah. Probably won't be higher than that, I think. But yeah, love this album. Number 2, this again didn't click instantly, but because of the sound of it, which was very much up my alleyway, I persevered. And as soon as after about 2 or 3 listens, it really clicked, and I thought this is going to be a favourite. So yeah, this is Grave Pleasures with Plague Boys.
Oh yeah, that grew on me slowly, but yeah, very good.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very, very assured album. Yeah, it's post-punk, but it's got that very strong 80s sort of vibe to it that I like from what my stuff. So yeah, definitely give it a favourite. And my album of the year so far, it might be topped, it might not be. They'd have to go one to really top it, but I just think this is an absolutely mesmerising beast and just so utterly unique compared to everything around it. And that's Heimdall by Enslaved.
Yeah, wonderful piece of work.
Yeah.
For a band that just keep on churning out incredible albums, for possibly their best work they've ever done, certainly their best since Below the Lights. It's an incredible album. I haven't got it in my top 5 at the minute, but ask me next week and that'll probably change. It's a work of art. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just the overall fucking sound of it, isn't it? I can't even put my finger on it. I don't know whether it's the production, whether it's the guitar tone, just the whole package.
It's how they're interacting those guitars. I can't think of anything else that sounds like it. It's how they're producing them, how they're arranging them. It's just so distinctively unique.
And when we talk about dynamism, which we do a lot on this podcast, how it moves from, proper black metal to almost sort of folky, and there's blues in there, and there's sort of classic rock in there. They do the full works from start to finish, even the dirty P word. But if we're going to talk about progressive music, that's what progressive music should be. In the same that Wallowing are progressive, that they're pushing boundaries.
Yeah, it's not indulgent, but it is interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a fascinating album, and you know what? It was worth the 42 quid for the vinyl. So
Yeah, I didn't quite pay as much as that. I don't think did I get the white? I think I got the marble or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I got the blue marble. It was worth every penny. And again, the vinyl package, the gatefold, the double vinyl, just the simple photography. You know, it's don't overthink it. Like the upcoming Earn album, just keep it simple, and you just, you know.
It is interesting now. We seem to be at that point when it comes to metal albums, black metal especially, where basically you can just take a photo of anything out there, black and white, and stick it on the front of the cover. I mean, I've been thinking about going down to the beach because it's not just a level beach. We've got like cliffs around this area. I could just take a photo up at the cliffs, print it in black and white, stick a black metal logo over the top, and it's just authentic.
Yeah, it is all you need. It's like black metal's become avant-garde, I think is the way to look at it, isn't it?
I mean,
I mean, Cornwall's just got
yeah,
wealth of material for black metal album covers.
You can see Carn Bray on a fucking album cover without a shadow of a doubt. Black and white, Carn Bray.
Like some like fog.
Yeah,
and like just the light on in the castle.
Yeah,
kind of like almost like the Eye of Sauron kind of thing.
Yeah, it would work. It would work all day long.
I think we need to do this. We need to issue ourselves a sort of a pod challenge every now and again. Try and take a photo and black metal it as much as possible. Years ago, I just went out for a walk with my mates, just in East Surrey, just down the road from where we were, and we walked around that area, but it was very foggy at one point, and I took a photo with like a dead tree in the background. And it's one of the best things I've ever taken because I tweaked it on Instagram, and it's a perfect black metal album. And all it was just a foggy picture on a miserable Sunday afternoon.
The In the Abyss weekly black metal photo challenge.
Yeah,
is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, but then again,
I'm game.
We never used the winter photo I took last year of a snowman.
No,
so we have to do that this year because I'm proud of that one.
Yeah, right. Well, that can go on a t-shirt and clothing line, but you know.
Yeah.
Look, I find it really difficult to nail down what I've got in my list so far to a favorite 5. And like I said, if I was to go and listen to some of the other albums in the list, it would probably change, and it would probably change weekly. But right at this minute, where I am with my top 5, and this is in no order, Witch Hazel, like you, straight in there, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Vomitory, All Hell to a Roll. Absolute fucking rip snorter of an album, that one. Love it. It's got everything I want from death metal.
I need to come back to that, yeah. But
and do, because it's just catchy and accessible. And I like Vomitory anyway, but they've nailed it, absolutely nailed it with this one. By far and away the death metal album of the year, and I don't think it'll be topped. Therapy, Hard Cold Fire, is also currently sitting in my top 5.
That's in my top 10 so far.
How that band keep doing it, I just don't know.
Yeah,
we've obviously loved them for donkey's years, and hopefully they'll still be around in another 30 years to keep appreciating them. But
little bit optimistic there, I think.
Well, perhaps, but look, even so, it's just such a great album, and it just sounds like Therapy doing therapy really well. And that might be a little bit cliched, but that is what they do well. They just do therapy really well. Yeah, and I think it's their strongest album since Troublegum.
That's
I know that's a bit of a sweeping statement, but
it is, considering
there's been some Suicide Pact is in there. But I haven't loved a Therapy album as much as I love this one since Troublegum. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, that's fair.
So that's in there. And then we've got Memento Mori by Hail the Void, which came out quite early in the year now. I think it was either late January or early February. So for anybody who doesn't know them, they're kind of stonery doom, I suppose, but the vocals are very... The vocalist reminds me somewhere between Lane Staley and Keith Caputo from Life of Agony. Yeah. Very passionate, very strained vocals that he just sounds like he's pushing himself to the limit every time he tries to hit a note, but without going beyond that limit. And, you know, combine that with these just gargantuan riffs and this atmosphere that comes with it. It's probably the most intense stoner album I think I've ever heard. It doesn't lollop along like a lot of that kind of music does. It's really punchy and really in your face, and I can go a month or so without listening to it and go back, and I'm just still blown away by it. And it will be pushing for the number one slot for the year. Up to a point, it was. But right now, I think sitting at the top of the tree for me is Earth Reaper by Wallowing. Because every time I listen to that album, it's a different album. They are an acquired taste. I get that. But that's obviously part of the package. And
yeah,
I mean, I've never heard anything like them. And they just...
I mean, that still needs a few listens for me, definitely. But I want to,
Look, they make me erect. They are the metal equivalent of a little blue pill.
That's a promo message. That is.
Well, look, it's true. They just. I picked up the vinyl a couple of weeks ago, and I've sat down and listened to it. I literally just sat cross-legged in the middle of my dining room, and I just listened to the title track, and because that's one side of the album, and just everything that goes on in that 21 minutes is just incredible. It really is. And I'm so excited to hear where they go next. They've already started writing album number 3, and I've got no idea where they could go with it. But yeah, if they're ambitious enough, it could. Look, this kind of thing can go really wrong. It can just be noise or just completely inaccessible. But they've got all these riffs and hooks that just sort of pop up every now and then that goes with all the noise. But with that, the atmosphere, it all just works as a package. Look, for anybody who's never heard them, I'm not even sure how I would describe them.
They're
impossible.
Well, I'm sure someone would use one of the other P word with them. But
yeah, look, cards on the table. You've got elements of post metal, you've got elements of prog, you've got elements of doom, you've got elements of hardcore. You've got definite influences of bands like Neurosis and Today's the Day, ISIS, Cult of Luna, all that's in there. But there's that and 1,000 more things going on in this package. And you throw in the concept and all the live visuals and the comic books and all their packaging of their cassettes and everything, all the effort they put into what they do. They're a force to be reckoned with, and I don't know if the extreme metal community picks up on them, they could go stratospheric. I can imagine Japan going nuts for them. So right at this minute, they're sitting at the top of the tree. It's been a strong year so far, isn't it?
Yeah, but let's face it. I think with what we do, we're trying to really stay on top of all these albums.
Yeah, which isn't easy. It isn't.
It's not, but it's worth it.
No, we're only talking about the first 6 months in here, but already there's 2 albums that I know of that are going to run these 5 close. The Tailgunner debut, Guns for Hire, which we love, but obviously that only came out last week, so I'm not including that in this. And the new Earn album, which again isn't out for another 3 weeks, but fuck me.
Yeah,
no spoilers. We're going to do a full review of that album in a couple of weeks, so you can hear our opinion. But oh my fucking god, what a piece of work! That's going to be up there. I mean, for me, Tailgunner is going to be quite high, definitely. What a great record! And we've just found out they've done well on a few charts across Europe, so they deserve that. And top 50 UK independent albums, which, for a band of that stature is just an incredible achievement.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this year certainly we keep coming back to these guys, but Moonlight Sorcery, they dropped another single today, and it's just
I can't wait for that album.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. That's going to be a banger, definitely.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that. We've got Svalbard dropping in a couple of months. It's just a smorgasbord. Metal delights. And there's going to be stuff that isn't even announced yet that's still going to be coming.
Yeah, Code Orange has just been announced for September.
Code Orange.
Like I say, Underneath was my favourite album of 2020. I mean, admittedly, I didn't buy many albums.
Fair point.
But certainly that was one at the top of the few I did. So so I'll definitely probably love that, whatever happens. And we are spoiled.
A lot to look forward to, I think, is the is the word. But look, that's about it. I think we've covered most of it. Sorry, it's a bit late. I can imagine next month is going to be the same because Bloodstock's going to get in the way. We will be back next week with a bit of a preview of Bloodstock, actually, because it's only 3 weeks. This time in 3 weeks, probably be standing waiting for Meshuggah. No, Kill Switch. It's Friday, isn't it? It's Friday.
Yeah, I'll have to check the calendar, but yeah.
So yeah, that's where we are. So we'll do a bit of a preview next week. All the stuff we're looking forward to. A long range weather forecast, maybe. And I think one thing we know is not going to be as hot as it was last year, which I'm thankful for. But fingers crossed that the weather gods hold out and it doesn't piss down. Touch wood all over the fucking place. Because I'm too old for piss rainy festivals.
Well, as I've said, the last festival I did was Drownload in 2016, and I'm probably going to have to get a new tent because that one's still in the bag and I haven't actually opened it since. So there's probably new life forms in there.
I'm surprised that hasn't got up and crawled out of the bag, mate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll look forward to that next week. And like I said, we've got the review of the new Earn album coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. So look forward to that. Thanks for listening this week. And it's something we don't say enough, actually, for all the people around the world that are, still listening to this podcast from day one and all the new listeners we pick up week on week. Look, we do this for a bit of escapism once a week. It's three old men, three old farts grumbling and moaning and it's just passion for metal at the end of the day, isn't it? And without people listening to it, it's pointless. So please keep listening and please spread the word. And hopefully we'll bring more and more, I say interesting content, but we'll see about that. And potentially even some visual content coming soon as well. But
if you're lucky, you'll see our faces.
Oh, I don't know about lucky. We'll see about that. But yeah. So yeah, thanks for listening. We will catch you next week. Stay metal.